Welcome to our session.
Recording.
So good to see all of you here. Uh, it's afternoon here in Hong Kong, so I'm not sure, what's your time zone like, but so good to see all of you. So obviously, if you can turn on your camera, you can be like Melly. Melly's camera is turned on, and we can see her. So if you guys can, then we'd love to see your lovely faces. It's probably the last time in a regional setting for Jika I, so it's a pretty nostalgic session for us, but it's still something we're super excited. Cool, I see a few of you turning on your camera. Thank you so much. So welcome to today's session once again. We're going to talk about BD sales team management this afternoon. So my name is Roy, and I'm one of the RSTs for AP BD right now. And it's my honor to have my co-FSC, Jika.
Hi, everyone. Hope you guys are enjoying RFS. Back to you, Roy.
Okay, nice. Thank you, Jika. So this session, obviously from inspirations from Sumi and Sarah, Jika and I have tried to put together hopefully something that can help you guys in your current sales journey so far. So just as any other ISEC session, gonna do a bit of expectation setting first. So I guess when you think about BD sessions, it's always a lot about strategies and function and operations, and how can you boost your funnel and blah blah blah. But for today's session, it's going to be a bit more on the reflective side. So this is going to be a safe space. Don't judge yourself and don't judge anyone else for what they say. And obviously, it's lovely to see all of your faces, but then it's totally optional to, for you guys to unmute yourself and share or turn on your camera, because we want this to also be a meaningful and safe space for you. And it's again, like, it's okay not to be okay. Like, we have all been through this journey. The thing that unites all of us is, we've been there, done that. We know how it feels. So obviously for a lot of you, it might be, very tough doing sales right now, very tough to bring in revenue for your entities. So it's okay not to okay. It's okay not to feel, perfect all the time. And, again, from us, right, from Jika and I, we can only talk from our experience. So there's obviously like no perfect answers, but it's just a matter of perspective. So take our advice with a pinch of salt. And obviously, if you have any technical difficulties or any sort of concerns, you can always, just do a direct message to our Zoom hosts, or, our lovely CC is here to always take care of you. And before we get started, hope you guys have a pen and paper with you right now. I can wait for like 15 seconds. So in case you don't have a pen and paper, you can quickly get it, and then we'll be good to go. Okay, so I guess everyone should have a pen and paper with you, and yeah, hope this session is something that's meaningful for you guys. So before we start, I want to start off with a Slido. So want to hear what everyone's thinking in the room right now. So the question would be like, what are your struggles, your frustrations, your pain points when it comes to doing sales right now? Can be anything, and you can type in multiple answers. So you can either go to slido.com and type in the code, or you can simply scan the QR code on the slide here, and it's going to take you to the link. So let me give you guys some time to scan. I hope the link is working. It is awesome. Cool. So let's do this then. Let me go to Slido and let me present. Okay. I hope you guys can see the Slido screen. I think you can. Okay, so what are your struggles and frustrations when it comes to doing sales right now? Companies think ISEC is just this university student club. So it's hard to build up that credibility. Investment fees. So I guess from the pricing point of view, like how much do you sort of like charge your different touch points? Maybe that's something you're struggling with. Maybe the partners find it too expensive. Partners are not responsive. They don't put us as their first priority. COVID, objection handling, raising new partners for sure. Converting to deals, so the conversion from the meetings to the proposals to the deals in itself. How about from like a more like an emotional or personal point of view? Like, do you guys have any struggles when it comes to, doing sales, when it comes to being an MCVP of sales or an EST of sales? Slow responses. Participants and partners are fed up of virtual events. Not confident and fear of rejection. Whoever wrote this takes a lot of courage to write that, and it's something we all have, right? Like fear of rejection, fear of always being said no to us, to ISEC, to our touch points. Members lacking the confidence, definitely. And I guess when we as MCVPs or we as ESTs have doubts, then when it comes to the members or the LCVPs, even they would be having quite a lot of doubts, quite a lot of frustrations, quite a lot of lack of confidence. So yep, I think this is I guess an overview of how you guys feel as well. And thanks everyone for participating and sharing. So we know what the room feels right now. So what I want you guys to really understand here is you're not alone in this journey. So for me, this time last year, I guess just like any MCVP, maybe even Jika felt the same, or even like others in our commission. It was literally like the COVID-19 doom. So at that time, like COVID was in its peak. And just like you guys right now, like the thing that I constantly heard from companies was no budget, no budget, no budget. Like every time, always get an email reply saying, our budget for this year is too tight, or sorry, like we cannot, we have to deprioritize this and then, do something else. So what that meant was, my portfolio was constantly unclear. When I couldn't find enough partners for the events, I had to push back the event timelines. And, obviously it's like, it's really, like you need to constantly change the events. And then what is supposed to happen in January is happening in like April or May. Timelines are delaying. You have no guarantees from the partners. You have partners committing and then backing out. But the even worse feeling was I had a team of I think 6 or 7 ESTs, and no one was actually, really devoting their time and doing the raising part. And I wouldn't blame them because maybe it's my fault that I couldn't, communicate the purpose or really show them the clarity of why they need to do sales, why they need to do all the hard work. And what happened was, I just felt like constantly being the one-man army. So when no one is performing, no one is cooperating, and as the MCVP, you just feel like the whole entity's, expectations is on your shoulders. So that burden, that, fear of failure, that constant pressure was something that it really killed me. And it really makes me sort of have this kind of realization that, no one really understands me, no one really feels what I'm going through. Everyone just looks at BD for raising the revenue, but no one understands how tough it is to overcome all those objections, how tough it is to really communicate with the partners and so on. So definitely, how I felt was like a fear of failure, my imposter syndrome. It just makes me feel like I just have so many insecurities, right? And because people were not performing, because I couldn't see how others were also contributing to the goal, it just makes me work like a machine. And it just makes me more and more frustrated, more and more flustered as the pressure got to me. So I start to blame COVID. I start to blame the partners for not responding. I start to blame pretty much all the external factors for why I wasn't achieving or why I wasn't performing. And ultimately, when it comes to the team management part or even the self-management part, I stopped trusting myself, my sales team, and pretty much everyone. So it was just like an overwhelming bubble of negativity from which it was so hard to get over. But again, right, like I'm sure you guys would also feel similar to this, varying degrees of struggles, varying degrees of frustrations. But what I want you guys to know is if you feel this way, if you have these frustrations, if you're going through these challenges, it's only because you're human. And being a leader means being a human. So long as you stay true to yourself, so long as you are honest to how and what you feel, to your experience, to your emotions, to what you've been going through, you'll definitely stay true to your cause. Because again, like all of you are trying your best, all of you are here in ISEC because you care, right? So it's not because you don't care, but it's perhaps because you're not being honest to yourself and you're not seeking for help, just like me back then. So yeah, I mean, the whole essence of this, the whole essence of staying true, the whole essence of really coming to terms with your emotions and your experience as a salesperson right now is realizing, what you can control and what you can't control. Because there are so many things that affect you, right? So many factors that come, but there are things that are definitely beyond our control, beyond our influence. And there are things that, we can control, that we can influence. And it's really about finding out what we can and what we can't. So I guess, Jika, that would be a good segue to also go to you, to, how you felt back then and how you see this whole concept of, control and what you can't control.
All right, thanks for that space for reflection also. So just to keep it going, I wanted to share with you guys an exercise that you can do even in your daily routines. This is our way of grounding ourselves of what is really in our control versus what's not in our control. So let me introduce to you guys this framework called fear setting. And essentially, it's an exercise wherein we list down all of our fears in detail. So thinking about worst case scenarios, listing ways on how to prevent it, or what do we do post damage or post catastrophe. And then we also write down the benefits of what happens when we try out something or when we experience partial success. And at the same time, we also get to review what happens if we don't act on a certain concern that we have in our heads. So sit back, let's just take a moment and reflect on what's been happening in our term. So to fully understand and benefit from fear setting, I wanted to also introduce to you guys stoicism. So maybe you've heard of it, maybe you haven't, but anyway, just to review it a little bit. So essentially, stoicism is the endurance of pain or hardship without a display of feelings or without complaint. So for example, I'm feeling frustrated right now, but I have the choice not to project it to other people. I have the choice to not take it out on them. So it's really having that resilient mindset that things are going to be okay. So with that, think of fear setting as the opposite of goal setting. So I think we all have our crazy BD revenue goals, but let's also think about what do we want to avoid happening in our term. So today we're going to be making a checklist of what we are afraid to do and what we are afraid of that could happen in our term. So, for example, for fear setting, let's think of an earthquake. So, I don't think anybody wants to experience an earthquake in their lives, but you never know, the world changes. But of course, when we want to prepare for that catastrophe, we have a mental rehearsal. We also want to gather the knowledge for it. We also want to prepare our own first aid kits. And of course, when it does happen, if it does happen in our lifetime, we have to, of course, keep calm and run for our lives. Second, we also have to live and treat people like it's our last day. So it's really identifying what are key actions per stage. So what should we do when we fear something? What do we do to prevent that from happening? Or what do we also do when it does happen? So fear, prevent, and repair. So with that, let's start our first reflection space. So I'll be playing music for you guys. So on your pen, rather on your paper, piece of paper rather, or on your notes app, I want you guys to reflect on the three questions. So what is your greatest fear and why is it your greatest fear as an MCVP or even an EST? Second would be what's your greatest fear for your entity or for your role? Yeah. So with that, I'll give you guys 3 minutes to reflect. Later on, we'll process it. So yeah. Oh, sorry, it didn't play. So slowly, we're in the process of identifying now what's in our control versus what's out of our control. So just to give you guys an idea of what are the things that are in your control versus what's not. So essentially, what's in our control is our reaction towards circumstances, how we make decisions, how we run our meetings with our peers, with our MC team, with our ESTs, with our LCVPs, our emotions, our happiness, our actions, how we treat other people. In short, it's really our attitude, our behaviors towards the people that we work with. But what's not in our control is what the direction of AI could be like, or regional office perhaps, how people see you in case that there are, misunderstandings, getting revenue, even if that could possibly hurt, people's commitment to the role, government authority, or even the economy. So these are the things that we have to be conscious over. So really, we have to focus on what's on the right moving forward. So with that, now it's time for us to really reflect on what are the realities in our entity. So what is in our control, what is not in our control, what kind of insights do we need for our stakeholders to prevent us from worrying, what data do I have already, which do I still need to get, what do we have and what do we need to customize. So again, I'm giving you guys 3 minutes to reflect on what's in your control. And in case you want me to go back to the previous slide, you can always message in the chat. So I'll play the timer. So let's continue. Of our reflection, that's also take into consideration how we spend our time. So we have 24 hours in a day, but sometimes, or maybe for the most part, I know how stressful the MC life or even the ESD life can be. So honestly, it doesn't feel like 24 hours, but let's also reflect on how we spend our time. So let me discuss briefly what a lifetime is versus dead time. Okay, so what have you been spending your time on? So when you spend a lifetime, that's when you're more intentional with what you want to do with your time. So you can be reading, growing, working on health, fitness, life planning, if you have that in mind, channeling time and effort on work, working on an advocacy, connecting with people you care about, getting insights from other people. As for that time, this is when nothing is really, intentional. So you wait for lockdown, quarantine, COVID to be over. Sometimes we also tend to wait for AI or RO to give us direction. We wait for GCPs to just come to us. But sometimes you can even reach out to other people for that. Guilty pleasure sometimes for most of us maybe is to watch Netflix. Maybe you guys have watched Squid Game, I guess. Playing video games, scrolling mindlessly on social media such as Instagram, Facebook, or whichever social media app that you guys are into. So have we really been intentional with how we spend our time? So for the next reflection, now it's time for us to think about that. So for the guide questions for this one, first question is, I want you guys to think about what are the things that you can do during your term as a leader as one of the most productive and even the happiest times ever when you look back at it. Second, in connection to the previous reflection that we had, so what are the things that we need to consider when defining our timeline, our goal, and to follow up with that? So is the worrying helping the situation or is it helping me? So you really need to reflect if being a worried person is helping you or not. So with that, I'll give you guys 3 minutes once again. So I think Suki has already prepared the breakout room. So I'll stop screen sharing. We'll give you guys, so the time is 3:45 GMT plus 8 right now. So we'll see you guys in 5 minutes instead so that we could hear each other out later. So yeah, I think the breakout rooms are open already.
Nice. So I hope you guys had a good conversation. Obviously, it's tough, right, to talk about these topics, about fears, about things that are holding you back. But I hope it was a meaningful conversation, and Jika and I would love to hear maybe one to two of you to share, if you feel comfortable to do so with all of us. So yeah, would there be anyone you'd like to share a bit about your thoughts on these questions? Would love to hear how you feel, how you think.
Would you like to go ahead?
Sure.
All right. So originally, I thought I was the only one who was having these kind of problems because, like the thoughts that you're not good enough or you're not meeting people's expectations, and all of these thoughts were mine alone. But when I actually got into the sharing space and I got to hear what others had, what others were thinking about, I think that made me a little more calmer because now I have a group of people that I know face the same issues, and it's not that I am the one who's alone. So yeah, that this was really helpful. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Sumit. Really appreciate it. Anyone else?
Yeah, I will go. Oh, typing my name. So, yeah, for me, I think I am a person who really care about like others' anticipation toward me. So since everyone knows BD is so important due to the COVID-19, so there's lack of exchanges. So BD is kind of like the main revenue stream for the like entity financial sustainability. So BD has to make like some revenue through partnership, but I have so many works to handle beside BD right now. So my main concern was I cannot devote sufficient time to BD. But it is somehow like under my control since um, to be honest, I spend so many times for sleeping. So if I just cut down some time for sleeping, I can actually devote some time to PD, but it is actually somehow not under my control since it is true that I have so many works beside PD right now. So yeah, I will just try my best to kind of devote more time to PD because it's so important. So I'm currently working very much right now. So yeah, I think that's for my sharing.
Awesome. Thank you, Gaju. Again, like it takes so much courage to share with everyone how you feel, your fears. So I really appreciate that. Um, so I mean, that's the essence of this session, right? Like there's obviously so many struggles, so many fears, so many challenges, but everything boils down to, when it comes to resolving these fears or resolving these challenges, I'm sure they will never completely go away, but it's about realizing, what is it that you can control? What is it that is in your circle of influence? Because you can't control the pandemic, right? You can't control what the company's budget is. Like the company won't ask Isaac how much should they budget. Like that's completely not in our control. But what we can control is a few things. And honestly, like it's about realizing that part of the process because a lot of the times the uncertainties or fears come from the fact that we cannot dictate everything, but then that's just the reality, right? Like we are human beings and we can only do so much and we can only try our best. But that's not just only trying our best, because if you literally try your best with, diligence, with hard work, with dedication, then that's everything you can do, and you should be proud of it if you're doing that. So obviously there are a few things that Jika and I would like to leave you guys as some little words of advice from us. First of all, the things you can control would be the LC management. So a lot of you mentioned, it's sometimes a struggle to really manage the commission or how to position yourself in front of the members or the LCVPs. And I can really resonate with that. I would say the thing that I did wrong was I didn't nurture them well. I didn't trust them enough. I just saw myself as, MC is separate, LC is separate. But to be very honest, like, you guys are in this function together. And if you guys need to achieve as an entity, as one entity, then every LC, MC, you guys need to come together. You guys need to synergize. You guys need to, ultimately be the drivers of the success together. So it's not always, like as an MCVP or EST, I get it that, you need to know your shit always. You need to always know what you're doing, but sometimes it's okay to be vulnerable in front of the LCs as well. Like, sometimes it's okay to share how you think, how you feel. Sometimes it's okay to ask for advice and, really have those honest conversations. So that's where it really comes in for the LC management part. And then obviously, some practical things you can do on the sales front would be more on really doing more on research and understanding their needs. Because when you're constantly getting rejected or when you're constantly not receiving any responses, then I would say it's important to take a step back to really understand, what's going on. And if you have a better context, if you really gauge what the partners are looking for, what exactly are their needs, then it would be much easier for us to package our value proposition accordingly than constantly, sending the same proposal over, using the same tactics. Like, sales is always about adapting and always about, adjusting yourself to what the partners are looking for. So that's something, I hope you guys would also spend some time and effort in doing. And obviously on the product pricing part, like, there's never a hard and fast rule, right? Like how it should be priced and what exactly should be done. It's all about, whether what is the rate in the market, what is, typically how much the companies are having that sort of budget. And again, like, the only way to do it is by having different packages. So different packages cater to different scale of companies. For example, when it comes to small scale companies, you charge them a lower set of packages. For a bigger MNC, you charge a higher set. And at the end of the day, like, it's never about whether they want to spend or not spend, right? It's about whether they see the value of spending, whether they see the return on investment, whether they see the tangible benefits of investing in an ISEC touch point. So that's something I would say when you're explaining the value of the partnership, when you're explaining and articulating, what ISEC can bring to the table, that's something you need to work on. And obviously the last and most important thing which you can control is yourself and the team management. Like, it's okay to feel not okay, right? But at that moment, you can't escape from those feelings. You can't hide those feelings. Like, you need to seek for help. You need to seek for understanding from your team, from others. And that's only going to make you human. Like, the fatal thing that I had, fatal flaw was I always used to think that I need to be perfect in front of everyone. I need to always know my thing. But that only made people more and more distant from me. My team grew distant, everyone else grew distant because I was simply not sharing my feelings, my thoughts, my frustrations, and my challenges with them. And honestly, like, it takes courage to be vulnerable, right? So if you're really being your authentic self, if you're really leading your team in the most authentic way, and you guys are, using everyone's combined expertise to come up with a solution, then I would say that's something that would, really yield good results in the end. And yeah, this is all about team management. This is all about, taking a step back, reflecting, and really finding some answers to your fears, to your struggles. And yep, Jika, any last words?
Okay, I can share my screen for
Sure.
this. Hold on.
No worries.
Okay. So yeah, remember the 4 things that are in your control. So there's LC management, assessing product pricing, researching on partners' needs, and last but not the least was self and team management. Okay, let me just present it really quickly. Okay, so one thing also to share with you guys is that I think we're done with the first quarter of the term. So just a reminder for everybody is that once your why is clear, then you'll survive anyhow. So we always talk about remembering our whys in Isaac, and that's when it really gets tough. You really have to reflect on why you're in the role, why you signed up for the role, why you continue to wake up every day and be an Isaacer. So again, you'll survive anyhow with a clear why. And earlier we talked about fears, right? So just to also clarify, we don't want you to be fear-driven leaders. I think that has its own disadvantages, but a way to reframe fear is to think of it as undiscovered hope. So be that kind of leader who looks for those sources of hope. Don't focus so much on the fears, but look at these as sources of undiscovered hope, really. So remember that fear can be equal to hope. So with that, we wanted to wish you guys good luck with the rest of your MC term. Remember to build a future-proof Isaac and Asia Pacific for youth leadership development. And we believe in you guys so much because you guys are generation 2025. So with that, thank you guys for coming to the session. We hope that you guys enjoy RFS. And in case you guys want to stay in touch with me or Utso, then we're just one message away. So yeah, that's it.